Greetings, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It's great to be with you again and great to share the insights and key takeaways from the research we've been fortunate enough to do now for, what is it, a mere 5 months or so. And I'm delighted to be joined by Amir Elon, President and CEO of Longwoods International. I'll pass over to Amir in a moment, but this is the 18th edition of this wonderful research that Longwoods has been running. Fielded, you can see there, mid-August, the 12th of August. All of this is available not just in this potted summary that we're sharing with you right now, but in a 2-page summary and a fuller slide deck. So please access that. And then also part of a whole range of resources on our Clarity in a Time of Crisis website. So without further ado, I'll pass over to Amir for the latest insights and takeaways.
Well, thank you very much for the kind introduction, my friend there. But so hello, everyone. This week, let's start off by saying 3 silver linings and 1 red flag. Lots of interesting developments over the last couple weeks since we last released this data. Jumping right into the numbers, 73% of American travelers planning to travel in the next 6 months are or have been changing their plans. You can see how it breaks out there. About 47% have reduced their travel plans in some form or fashion. About 42% have canceled their travels altogether. Usual pattern of about a little over a quarter changing from flying to driving destinations. And of course, as U.S. travel overseas across borders continues to be greatly restricted for non-essential travel, the trend is to cancel that trip to Europe and rebook it for a trip in the U.S. Let's take a look at the trend lines. So as you can see, we seem to have kind of leveled off here in terms of plans to change upcoming travel. It's been pretty consistent here for about the past month, and obviously we'd like to see that line go down further, but given the news out there in the world, I think stabilization is not a bad thing. When we look at the trend lines for a couple of these key factors, I'm very happy to report, if you look on the right side of the screen there, that there is a nice gap between those who have reduced their travel plans and those who have canceled their trip completely, meaning that more people are just changing their plans than canceling their plans. And that's a healthy indicator for us there. So silver lining number 1. Looking ahead, again, it's very consistent. So much travel changing to regional drive markets, and again, there's lots of opportunity tied with that. And of course, the change with from international to domestic travel. You see, a couple weeks ago, that or mid-July, that spike of 20% was exactly around the time that the EU put the US on the naughty list as they began to reopen their borders. And of course, Canada just extended their border closure for non-essential travel from the US to about September 21st. So folks, that's a lot of outbound tourism dollars that are going to be refocused inbound. We have opportunity to capture market share and opportunity for you to capture some of that share there. As you know, every survey, we are asking folks about 3 key factors that would impact their decision to travel in the next 6 months. And as you can see, the transportation costs and concerns about the economy do not factor very heavily in those saying it would greatly impact their decision to travel. And of course, as it has been from the beginning, fear of coronavirus is number 1. But when we look over here at silver lining number 2, you can see that we have been trending downwards in that fear of coronavirus again. Now, of course, the trend line has been one heck of a roller coaster from lockdown down to the reopening and the optimism that came with that. When we got down to about 46% there in mid-June, we were all excited because we were very close to where we started with 35%. But now we're back to that level. We're back down to 45% there. So again, as we reported last time, that shift in consumer mindset of waiting out the pandemic versus traveling within the confines of the pandemic. The consumer is now, the American traveler is now just figuring out how they're going to travel within the pandemic and how much risk that they want to absorb, which is why for destinations and attractions and accommodations, it's so important to give clarity for the steps that you're taking to provide a safe and worry-free environment for the guest as much as possible. Moving right along, again, the economic factor, you can see it has remained remarkably low. Again, speaking to the fact that they're not worried about can they afford to travel. They are worried about how and when they're going to travel. And we always ask that question. We start off actually the survey with this question: are you going to be traveling in the next 6 months? And yeah, we had a slight dip in the last couple of weeks, but it's still resoundingly strong at almost 3/4. Obviously, that dip, we're nearing up the end, or nearing the end of the summer travel season. Some places are indeed going back to school. Some, a lot of fall meetings, conventions, special events. A lot of the NCAA leagues, like here I'm in Columbus, Ohio. The Big Ten football season has been scrapped for this fall. That's impacting a lot of special event plans. So we're not surprised. We expect this probably to dip a little bit more before it stabilizes. And also, if you've been following our tracker here, you've seen that every week we kind of ask 1 or 2 timely questions about related to things that are going on. And you saw us kind of focus in on health and safety concerns the last few waves. 2 waves ago, we asked a question about wearing masks. The last wave, we asked about kind of the trust and confidence that consumers have, travelers have in their authority figures in terms of indicators that it's safe for them to plan and execute their travel. So we wanted to dig a little deeper this time, and so we wanted to look at what the hesitancy, what's keeping folks from planning and booking that trip. And this is the red flag, folks. Let's be honest. Look at this. Over half, 52%, said travel restrictions are unclear in the destinations they're interested in visiting. 48% said the travel restrictions because they're varied between destinations. I don't know, in some communities, you literally cross a county line or from a city to a suburb, and the restrictions are different. Same thing with health and safety protocols. Again, a little less reaction to that, but still the percentages are right there. Yeah, 40% don't feel safe traveling outside their community. That's consistent with what we've been seeing in the other questions we've been asking. But the one that actually honestly concerns me, I think, the most is the bottom one there. Even though it's a lower percentage, it's still 1 in 4 travelers are telling us that they're not sure they're going to be welcome in the destinations they're interested in visiting. So think about that. And again, all this is because of the push-pull that they're seeing. There's, there's no coherent, consistent response, whether it's from the policymakers or the health officials there. And what's happening is, that lack of clarity, that lack of consistency, and that confusion, is causing confusion for the traveler. And confusion translates into fear, and fear means hesitancy. They're going to react by slowing down or pausing in terms of the planning and booking and going. So there is one more time an opportunity for destination marketing organizations, for attractions, accommodations, every sector of this industry, to be that focus of clarity. Make sure in your channels, your communication channels, in your marketing messages, etc., you are being clear and concise. What's the expectation of you as a visitor? What are the rules of play? And so forth, and what are you doing to help make sure that this is a worry-free experience as possible for the visitor? So then moving on, we've also, as you know, have been regularly tracking the factors that not just influences travelers, but as residents in communities here. And you see that support for opening up a community to visitors still very stable, but unfortunately remarkably low at just over 1/3 of residents feeling that they feel like welcoming. So again, pair that up with the data that we showed you that 1 out of 4 travelers doesn't feel that they're not sure they'll be welcome, and you got yourself a red flag there. And then in terms of feeling safe traveling outside their community, again, as residents and as travelers, it's right around that 40%, very consistent. So holds true. And then here's the last silver lining. I promise you 3, and here you go. When we asked them if they'd feel safe dining and shopping locally, you see we've had a significant uptick there to back to the optimism of kind of where we were in mid-June. Now, one data point does not a trend make, but it does speak again to that shift in mindset of, you know what, I got to dip my toe in the water. I got to get out now. It's about, I can't wait out the pandemic. So there you have it. And Chris, I'll throw it right back over to you.
Sure, and just a reminder, all this research is available on the Longwoods site, as well as on our COVID-19 Communication Center. Thanks so much for the opportunity to join with you today. I just highlight a couple of key things in terms of the recovery. There starts absolutely with locals, and as Amir has emphasized, that is clear, consistent health and safety and travel information. Until we get over that critical concern, then obviously travel is, people aren't going to be thinking about aspirational and inspirational things until we resolve those health and safety concerns. Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us. We look forward to connecting with you in a couple of weeks.